Another important page before we get started is setting up the Serverless Framework CLI on our local machine. And once again, under the getting started setup, there are a few steps we can go through here, and it pretty much is a useful guide to explain what are we setting up. Okay, so let's I don't have this set up on my machine, so I'm actually just going to follow these steps directly, and this is going to be almost like a live me trying to do the setup. We don't have it installed yet. Let's go to our terminal and let's paste that in. Paste that in correctly. Okay, so now I first need to make sure what node version am I running. Okay, so that's fine. I can install this, and now we should have serverless as a CLI tool installed. Okay, so I'm running that. It looks like it's loading, downloading Serverless Framework. Okay, so I just ran that again, and now it gives us these options to set up like different projects to start with. So we have Express API, Express of DynamoDB, and a bunch of other stuff. I'm not going to choose a starter template from here. I'm going to create one without using the CLI, just to keep it simple. Well, let's see if they give examples here. So this is to update it. So what version are we running now? Serverless version. Okay, we are running the new version 4, which is cool. Also my first time using that one. And now we can use the serverless command to check if serverless credentials are set up. So that is regarding AWS credentials. And as a prerequisite for this video series, I would suggest go set up an AWS account. There's a way to set up free tier. It's pretty easy. Just follow the sign up steps for AWS console. And then once you're able to log into your AWS dashboard, then you can come back and you can finalize the setup, which according to this tool seems pretty easy. It actually would prompt you with the required steps to sign in. Here we can create the concept of an app. Here's the setting up AWS credentials. So it would actually prompt you that your environment machine does not have the correct AWS variables set up. And yeah, so to give you an idea of where you should go for that, inside of your root directory, there's a .aws folder, and there's usually, if we ls that, there's a file called credentials, and yeah, under that credentials you'll add your required AWS keys, and then Serverless Framework automatically detects those keys from there. So if you follow the CLI steps, it would probably take you through that same steps, and here is a guide that has more detail on that. We will use the serverless CLI to ultimately deploy all of our CloudFormation, and we can use the serverless CLI to invoke functions locally. So this is pretty cool. We don't need to have an API gateway trigger. We can trigger the code through the CLI itself. We can stream logs, and there's a full local development. This is new to version 4, where we can run it like this with a dev flag. I believe it was up here. Yes, serverless dev, and this kind of streams it to your machine. It like does a proxy to your machine's code, so you don't have to like redeploy all the time. And then you can see the logs directly in that session as well. So we will kind of cover all of these, or most of them, as we go ahead, but definitely have a look at this page just to set up your connection between the Serverless Framework and your AWS account, because at the end of the day, Serverless Framework will ultimately deploy stuff to your AWS account through the CLI. Okay, so yeah, get that done. And once we have Serverless Framework CLI installed, we can go ahead and set up our project.